So we're back with another Creative Moments interview. We are here with Duval football legend, college football legend, Darian Thomas. How you feeling today, my brother?
To be here, bro. I appreciate it. I'm feeling
Most definitely. And we are most definitely happy to have you here with us, man. So we'll just hop right into it, man. So what got you playing the game, brother?
I always played sports. My first sport was baseball, actually. I started playing that when I was 5. I kind of feel like it had a lot to do with what came with the game of football, because my father, of course, played in the NFL, and I had an older brother that was playing at high school at the time. But they just felt like it was easier to start with baseball. But something about that football just drew me to it, man. I just love the thought of like a gladiator type field of running them around and dodging people, crashing into people, and then just me and all my friends and brothers just waking up all weekend and playing. So that's how I got started playing football.
That work. So you said you had pops that played in the NFL. What's it like growing up with a dad in the NFL, man? How was that?
He just held everything to a high standard. He never really painted that picture like you have to go to the NFL or be anything that I was, but it was just certain degrees of discipline that come with somebody who's achieved that level of success, because they've seen the habits that come with being a successful person, and they've seen the habits that come with being a not so successful person. So with him being around, I can remember days where we would always have to do things a certain way. Like I remember him correcting me on how to hold my fork when I was eating some grits at the table. I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I never really understood, like, I could have ate it with my hands, but he was just real firm on there's a right and wrong way to do certain things. So it never really showed like nothing that was related to football. It was just something that was attached to knowing the proper way or the proper etiquette to go about doing whatever it is you're doing, even something as simple as eating your food at the table. So I always wore it like as a badge of honor. I never really bragged much on it, like, oh, my daddy went to the league, because it felt kind of weak. I kind of wanted to set something up for myself where I can be like, I did this. But, now that I'm 33 and looking back on it and understanding just how tough it is to make it to the NFL, and for him to graduate from a historically black college in the 70s and go on and play in the NFL, I just have a newfound respect for some of the sacrifices he may have made just to reach the level that he did at the time when he did.
Yeah, gotcha. So during football season, was your pops gone the whole time?
Well, no. So he was already done playing by the time I was born. So he was about 38 when I was born. So I was never like an active NFL child where I was traveling back and forth to games or nothing like that. He played his professional career and finished maybe about 10 total years before I was born. But he got into ministry. So ministry was probably just as busy as the NFL, if not more. I can remember a time where he went to Africa for like 2 to 3 weeks, doing some missions trips. He found a way to ship vans out to families in Africa to where they could make a living for their children. And he would come back and tell us, because we had a pretty good household, and he would explain some of the different struggles that they go through. How I heard about students walking so many miles to go to school to educate themselves. I can remember him filling up his gas tank in like a normal sedan. And he was like, the money I just spent to fill up my gas tank could feed a family for a month or so in Africa. So I guess that was kind of humbling for me to know. And he was always working, always doing something. And in the church that we had, we was on like 13, 14 acres. So I kind of took it upon myself to have my friends come to the church, and we'll play football at the church. So that they kind of blended together, but it wasn't like an absent father type situation. It was just, he had a calling on his life, like a lot of people do, who achieve so much success. They achieve this, and then they tasked with sharing with the masses on some of the stuff that they accomplished, and just being a blessing and sowing a good seed to other people as well. So that's what that was like. The time I remember him traveling the most is when my brother was playing football for the same college he played for. So every weekend, and that's why I didn't play football until I was 8 years old, every weekend we went to whatever games they had. So I've been to Southern University in Baton Rouge. I've been to Jackson State countless times, Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Texas Southern, of course. I never went to Arkansas because he was so proud to see his son competing with his name. They're both named David Thomas. His son was competing with his name He was all swag, all conference in football. And, you know, we had this humongous van. We would all pile up in the van, get on the road, just go travel. So not my first, when I was 6 or 7, when you start playing flag football, I wasn't able to play because we wanted to go watch my brother, support my brother. And I can remember vividly, like, my friends getting dressed to go to practice. And I say, Daddy, can I go to practice with them? And he's like, nah, you know, we want to support your brother right now. You'll have time for you to play, but right now we supporting him. And I understood that I didn't fight it. And I didn't really understand the value of what I was experiencing as far as the history of historically Black colleges and universities, and, you know, seeing those guys play and whatnot. Because, you know, you always see the Power Fives on television and stuff. In our house, we rarely, almost never watched the Power 5 football game. Not that we had anything against it, but, you know, we was swag bred. It was like swag or nothing. If y'all know anybody who actually played in those conferences, you know, they kind of carry that swagger about themselves. And I actually had to talk with my father about why it was like that. And he explained, you know, those schools wouldn't allow us to come there. So it's not that we weren't good enough. You know, it's not that we weren't smart enough, big enough, fast enough. You know, he actually returned 6 punts in one game in high school, whereas, you know, today that would be like a viral moment. But they called all 6 of them back. He was in a racist town over there in the Panhandle of Florida. He returned 6 punts. They called all 6 punts back. And, you know, for somebody to put together a feat like this and have no Division I offers, is like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? But this 1969 that we talking about, actually. So he really valued and took pride that Texas Southern took that chance on him. And best kept secret, like back in the day, if you got drafted to go to war and you could prove that you was going to college, then you wouldn't have to go. So he was drafted to go to Vietnam, and he had some older teammates, these NFL Hall of Famers, Ken Burroughs and Harold Carmichael. Those are his friends in high school. Some kind of way they convinced the staff to bring him on. And that was more so about character. You know, they called him Buster at one point. They'll call him Peanut. They call my brother Peanut. But he was the senior class president at Rains High School, always dressed nice, carried himself well, taught well. And those are the kind of things that a lot of people look for to be a Division I athlete. And that's actually what helped me. Like, nothing about me said Division I. I was 5'5", I was 155 pounds. I probably ran like a 4.7. I caught 3 interceptions, which is okay. But not my head coach, my defensive coordinator, Coach C, he would always pride us on, you know, being carried to guys and having discipline. He was from Alabama. He had this real weird accent. He said, discipline, son. You got to have discipline, all right? You can't be a follower, son. So, you know, yeah, and I feel like that kind of set him up to go where he was and, you know, evade the draft. Some of his friends actually went to the draft and were veterans. Fortunately, he was able to evade the draft and, you know, go to a historical Black college, graduate, study business, and, you know, coming out, him and a few other guys in the swag. Mel Blunt was in the swag. Let me see, Carmichael Burroughs. Quite a few of those guys, those swag legendary guys, I met them all at some point. He knows them all. So that was pretty much the foundation that was set long before I was ever thought of as to who I would be and, you know, how that would attach me to the game and, you know, wanting to go to college and not having to explore different options outside of athletics. Because this Jacksonville, you can get into a lot of stuff, man. So especially around that high school age, you know, some guys want to get into making money, not like negative stuff, you know, finding new artistic ways to express themselves, and some of them just have trouble finding their identity. But being a part of something at that age just kind of motivates you to, you know, maintain your spot with being a part of that and not do anything to risk that. You know, you don't want to sacrifice this opportunity over a mistake or a bad decision you made. And, you know, just because I've seen it happen so many times, I really feel grateful that I was able to kind of navigate my way through life and, you know, avoid any drastic changes or major troubles and be somewhat of a success story, which I, you know, kind of would like to consider myself.
So you played for
I did at North Jacks.
when you started playing, was it just like, okay, easily picked up football? Did your first game you went out there crying like a lot of kids do, or was it just natural?
All right, the first thing I remember consciously looking at football, I showed up to my first day of practice, there wasn't a ball in sight. Like, there was no balls anywhere. So we running sprints. You know, I'm thinking like maybe we're warming up or stretching, but eventually we're going to play some hot ball or something, because I knew football to be fun before I actually played the organized sport. I knew you get the ball, we run around, we tackle and stuff. But that's when they introduced me to what is called conditioning. So you have to do 10 hours. So that's 2 to 3 hours, however many days you practice, where you can get in your body in shape to be able to collide with people, to be able to play in the sun. So I didn't like it. I was like, we're not playing football. We running and crabbing and, push-ups. And the thing I hated the most was called 6-inch killers. If you play a Pop Warner, you know about them. You lay on your back, you lift your legs up 6 inches, and coach make you beat on your stomach. So, I had to adjust to what organized football was compared to let's pick teams and play at the park. And that was an early lesson for me. And in every season of my life, even outside of football, I want to condition before I go into it. Like, I'm a teacher now. So before I go into a school year, I may take 2 to 3 weeks of reviewing my math notes, studying something, maybe watching some National Geographic, because I'm conditioning my mind to get back into learning and, communicating with people. I try to find me an interesting documentary or something of that sort to watch just to expand my thought process and just put myself in the mindset of learning something new. Because once you stop learning new things, you get stagnant or complacent. So I want to keep that open mind and keep that energy to take into the classroom with me. And throughout every season, I always looked forward to how I would condition for the season. That would make or break the type of player I would be later into the season, because the football season is long. All right. So right now we're in August. At the college level, in November, you're still going to be playing football. And then a lot of players, they'll get to that point. They may be losing some games, might be 4-8, might not be about to make a bowl game. They'll kind of give up on it. Most of my teams, we were still in bowl contention. So we were still 100% in November. I remember being sad that my friends was coming home from Thanksgiving. We had to go play against FIU to beat them for our bowl game, which we did. In overtime, 56-52, and then we went on to play against Central Michigan and the Motor City Bowl. We beat them as well. And at FAU, we were the first team, we're the fastest startup program to win a bowl game, and we're the fastest startup program to win back-to-back bowl games. So those are the records. I won't say that I set them because those are team records, of course, but I never really see those records being erased out of the record book. The individual accolade I set was I was the first player in school history to return a blocked extra point for points. So I did find my way into the record books, which I somewhat take pride in. When you think of records, you think like rushing record, receiving record, interception record. Now, I ain't get one of those, but I did get me one. But one of my teammates, Alfred Morris, he shattered all the records at FAU, went on to get drafted. And he was also a player. He had one offer, like FAU's the only offer. I still don't know how that happened to this day. We'd had another running back come behind him, Devin Singletary, and he reset all the records and all that stuff. So
Let's step back.
Yes, sir.
How were your high school years academic?
I was scared of this question. So academically, we're going to go back a little bit further from high school. So I went to Darnell Cookman Middle School. And if you're familiar with Jacksonville, you have Darnell Cookman Middle School, and you have James Weldon Middle School, and these are college preparatory middle schools. So with those years, I didn't make honor roll. I actually struggled pretty bad in middle school. Like 6th grade, they was about to not let me back in the Darnell Cookman. 8th grade, my GPA wasn't high enough, so I ended up having to go to University Christian to promote. So middle school was just like the pits for me. I felt like they gave too much homework. I'm playing football, basketball, baseball, and running track, and heavy involved in ministry and stuff like that. I can make a lot of the excuses for it, but for whatever reason, middle school was challenging. So going into 9th grade, I made my mind up, this is not going to be my story. Okay, I'm going to do whatever I can to put myself in the right position, make good grades, build great relationships with my teachers, all those childish games, laughing with my buddies in the back. I'm sitting in the front of class all the time, always communicating with teachers. If the teacher offering after school tutoring, I'm going. I'm doing all those things. So high school, I was solid academically. But, I wanted to make sure I included middle school because it wasn't just like a God-gifted talent. Like, I really went through the fire to understand how valuable academics were. So high school, I came in, 3.4, 3.5 maybe out the gate. And then it kind of went down over time once I got into AP courses and honors courses. but I was still able to graduate with around a 3.1. And I kind of credit that to being my saving grace for getting into college. So like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people, they may or may not have guidance into the recruiting process or know anybody who's been to college. I was the youngest of 4 children. Both parents went to school. My brother and sister had already graduated and had another All-American sister who was at UCF at the time. So I pretty much knew if I had the right grades and the right test scores, I would get an opportunity, and that would be it for me right there. I made a 22 on the ACT. So, yeah, I was honor student and things of that nature. So I was solid in high school, but I really want people to know about how that story came about. Like, I had to make a pivot or a transition, like they say, just to get my mind right and really set myself up. Because a lot of people want athletic talent, but they just can't put it together academically, and you have to have both. You know, it's student athlete for a reason. I remember hearing coaches say that left and right. So, you know, all the effort that you put into the sport makes you do the same thing with your books, like with how you handle your academic affairs.
So in high school, when did college coaches start reaching out to you?
College coaches started reaching out to me. Never. I still haven't had one reach out to me to this day. So how I got in contact with college coaches was going to camps. Like, I never had a phone call where it's like, hey, this is Coach Urban Meyer at Florida. Hey, this is Coach Bobby Bow from Florida State. I never had that, you know, and I still play Division I. So I want people to know that I wasn't gonna lie to y'all and say, yeah, I had coaches hit me up, this and that. No, never the case. Still not the case to this day. But my first contact with the coaches was, I would say, just seeing them. So my 9th grade year, we had an offensive lineman that was a real big recruit, and I would always see recruits coming into the school. So they weren't there for me, but I could see them coming. I was like, you know, I think I can have that. I think I can interact with these people. I think I have what it takes. At the time I freshman year, I'm 5'1", I'm not even 100 pounds yet. So that was my first contact. Then once I got into my junior year, that's the first contact I had with a coach. It was actually a defensive back coach at a camp at Georgia Southern. I don't remember his name, but he just applauded, you know, my effort. Like, I wasn't getting tired. I was running around. He said I was playing like my hair was on fire. But we had another defensive back that he wanted more than me. You know, he was a Super 11 defensive back. If I was a coach, I would also want this kid more than the kid I was. You know, he was a physical specimen, real physical, wasn't scared to hit. So around this time, you can consider this like my contact with coaches, but I kind of understood that's never going to be my story. All right, I'm not going to be the guy with a bunch of letters. I'm not going to be the guy with a bunch of phone calls. I see the guys who have it, and I see myself. So taking a look at myself in the mirror, I didn't really possess what they were looking for or what they painted picture as a Division I athlete might look like or be like. So what I began to do is I applied to every school in Florida, University of Florida, South Florida, Florida International, UF, UCF, and then I started looking at the websites and trying to break down how much it costs, because I felt like any scholarship offer I would get may be a school I didn't really want to go to, which ultimately ended up being the case. But I started communicating with a coach named Gary Nord. He was the offensive coordinator at FAU. He called me and he offered me what's called the PWO deal. That's preferred walk-on. So if you can count that, that would be in the spring. I was during the baseball season of my senior year. They called me while I was at Grad Bash and said, you got accepted. We got a spot for you at Florida Atlantic if you want to take it. So yeah, it was that had to be like April 2007.
So what other schools offered you? I know you were saying that schools that you particularly want to go to, but what schools were there?
It was a school called St. Augustine University. Is it St. Augustine? It's St. Augustine College or University. It's a historically black college in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Edward Waters gave me a scholarship offer in baseball. So I loved Edward Waters, but I didn't want to stay home. All right. And St. Augustine, I didn't like anything about it. Like, the players had to buy their own cleats and stuff like that. And that just wasn't what I envisioned college football to be. I had a few baseball offers, a brief little communication with FAMU. It was a late push right there. And St. Leo University in St. Leo, Florida. So when it came to it, I had to talk with my dad. I actually got in some heated debates about this too. So I talked to my dad and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to St. Aug. They offer, I can go up there and play. And I'm knowing in my heart I don't really like it, but that whole signing day thing really meant a lot to me. If you ever see pictures of me at signing day, you'll see me with the suit on, but I didn't sign anything. I got dressed. I thought I would go through with that St. Augustine deal. And my father, I was 17, so I couldn't sign myself away. My mother wouldn't answer the phone for whatever reason, and my dad was like, I'm not signing off on this. I think you're better than that. I think you're better than that. So in my mind, I just said, okay, I could go to these schools, but I'm better than that. So I put it in my mind, if I'm better than this, I have a lot to do to prove it. So I remember a question asked about like my high school work ethic, like my workout routines. And I would reach out to people and just get ready to go into this Division I battlefield, or what I consider Division I battlefield, because I would have a lot to prove every day, constantly, over and over and over again. So yeah, that was, I don't regret any of that. Those were good opportunities. They kind of fit me for who I was as a player. A lot of players will come up here and be like, yeah, the coach didn't like me. They had some kind of carried issue against me. That wasn't me. Like I personally wouldn't have recruited myself to go play for the Gators or the Gamecocks or the Bulldogs or Kentucky. Like no, like that just wasn't what it was at the time. Yet on the back end, around my sophomore year, I was ready to play against them, and it took me actually playing against Texas. So I'm on the field with these guys. I see the lineman, I'm coming up making tackles. I'm like, yeah, you see my highlight tape. You see me making plays against Nebraska, South Carolina, Louisiana Lafayette, North Texas. So we had some mid-majors, but we always started the season off with Power 5 teams. So at that point, I was able to conceive the idea, like, I actually belong here. That person who I thought I was, I'm him now. Like, now is the time to really be that person on and off the field.
So coming into camp, like, what's it like for a preferred walk-on? Like, you're not on a scholarship, you're not on nobody's really saying, hey, we really want you to, other than the fact that you're a preferred walk-on. What's it like being one of those guys?
For me, it was like a nothing to lose situation. So I was able to really let my hair down and just play ball, because it's like, if I suck, then, they didn't expect nothing out of me anyway. So it's like nothing to lose. I can come in here, just really lock in and like focus. So I felt absolutely no pressure whatsoever. So with the recruited guys, when they coming in, coaches know their names. If you miss a play, we didn't bring you in here. We're not spending $40,000. Like, that was never the case for me. So everything for me was an upside. So from the very first time I made a good play, and it was a block punt. Very first time I made a play in practice, I blocked the punt during a scout team, and coach yelled at the person who was supposed to block me. He was a scholarship cornerback. He was a redshirt junior, and he was actually way better than me. Just at the time, he didn't want to be on punt block team. But all DBs are always going to be on all special teams. So they fire him up. Yeah, you let this little walk-on pitch, we block our punt, man, you better tighten up. All right, so we lined it back up, did it again, blocked the punt again. So at that point, that's when they knew, all right, who is this guy with number 17 on? Let's find out a little bit more about him, and let's see if we can get him involved in the special teams action. So most of my introduction to getting playing time was special teams action, which was new to me, because in high school, I was not like a dominant starter, but nobody really looked forward to being on the hands team or a field goal block unit, punt return team. It's almost like special teams is like overlooked, but when you get into the essence of the game of football, special teams is a whole third of the game, like flipping the field, blocking kicks, blocking punts, pinning people in. All of that will contribute to your offense and defense to help you win games. So whenever they offered me that opportunity, I found it to be easier. It's not really assignment football, When you're a cornerback, you got deep thirds, you gotta make sure you protect your third. If it's man coverage, play with your inside leverage. With kickoff team, it's like, there's the ball, run in your lane, go find it. Anybody got a different color jersey on, you hit them. So I was able to get those reps without having to be in my head so much. So once I got those reps, that's when it moves on. And I always encourage freshman DBs when I, train them now, I tell them, you're gonna be on special teams, all right? You might be a starter, you might not. I don't really think 18-year-old DBs out of high school, with the exception of a few, can come in and prepare NFL, not prepare, but come in and, cover NFL-ready receivers. They know too much about releases. They know too much about spacing. And it's not making you like less of a player, but this guy has been playing the college game for 3 or 4 years. And in our position, the first receiver I had to cover was Jordan Shipley, playing for Texas. Yeah, so getting off, man, getting off, bro, like getting loose, and it's different route combinations, the O-line, and that was the biggest difference for us between FAU and Texas. Their linemen were just so much bigger, and you know he was able to buy them some time. And Jordan Shipley had quite a few seconds to get open and find his way in the back of the zone and things of that nature. But he went on to play in the NFL. Him and Quan Cosby, he played in the NFL as well. The best receiver I played in college, I played against Antonio Brown, all right? And he was pretty good. But the guy who really had me like, we don't have an answer for this dude is Eric Decker. Eric Decker, he was a big, like, white receiver from Minnesota. And the part I remember him dominating the most in, and this is what you got to tell football players about the whole game, on running plays, he was trying to pancake somebody every play. Like every play. If he got his hands on the safety, he's trying to pancake you like every play. So when he's coming off the ball to release, you might freeze up and try to prepare to block him, and then he'll slip you. He went for like eight catches, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns, something like that. Like he went off on us. No. No, him and Sue was the two most like players was like, coach, we don't know what you want us to do. Like, you know, it's just what it is. Like, Sue. Out of Nebraska, yeah. So he was a technician. When I learned he played soccer when he was a kid, that's where you get that big mixture, you know, being that big and having that footwork. And then he was just a dominant football. He was on the Heisman watch after he played us from D tackle. Yeah, like really.
Okay, so what was the biggest difference in the competition between playing high school ball and?
It was mental. It's a huge difference in the 15-year-old and the 22-year-old, like I said. It was all mental because they're essentially the same guys. Like, I never really came across people who was just blazing faster than me, you know, just absolutely way stronger than me. Like, physically, they all matched up. But the mental aspect and the preparation for the game was totally different. I never watched film in high school. The only time I watched film was after my games to pick out my highlights. But I never understood what it was like to break down the film and prepare for what a team is getting ready to do, identifying their strengths and weaknesses, what are some of their favorite formations to run, who do they go to in clutch situations, who was the weak link. We would always try to identify, you know, which receiver is probably out there for decoration. They're probably not going to give them the ball much. So just the preparation, the mental aspect was totally different. The atmosphere of the games, it's like the same as high school magnified. It's so much pride in high school. Like you may see teams, they're not even the very best teams, but their friends are out there watching them. They're going to scream from the crowd. They're going to heckle you a little bit. Like, you know, you always going to have that. Of course, in colleges, a high school campus is probably much smaller than the college campus. But the biggest difference in the competition was the mental aspect of preparing for a game. Like, you would focus on this team from Sunday up until you play them on Saturday. When we get back off the plane Sunday, we getting ready for the next game. All right, we're going to learn from that. We're going to watch it one time, put that film up, get ready to prepare for the next game. So that competition was like that. Like I said, I never seen most of the best like athletes I really played against, with the exception of them being younger, were in high school. You know, I remember like Brandon Hicks was very difficult to block. I remember Brandon James, St. Augustine, just super fast. He played for the Gators, went on to play in the NFL. I remember going against Reigns. They had like a mean front seven. You know, they were just like great athletes. Most of the guys I'm naming all went on to play in college. So playing against those guys in high school kind of gets you ready to go play in college. It's just at that point, that's when you got to transition to the business aspect and understand how to game plan and get ready to go into hostile environment and come out with a victory.
5-1 coming in the high school, 5-5 the sophomore year, that's trying to get recruited and play college ball?
Just in today's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like environment, because it's not like it changed, but the way things are going now, coming in ninth grade, the first thing I would tell you to do is find some friends with similar goals like yours. Okay, if you can help it. Mostly your teammates. It's almost always going to be your teammates. Find you some guys that you can keep around you, and all of you all would like to go play in college. And the reason why is because they're going to do things to position you and themselves to get to college, and they're going to avoid anything that may get in the way with that. So that's just, that has nothing to do with how much you can lift, how fast you can run. That's just about your focus and your discipline and just being in the right environments. So coming in, identify somebody who you can learn from. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say a trainer, but I would use a trainer. I train people now. I've never hired a trainer before, but, you know, I had a different set of, you know, my brother played football. My sister she ran track. I probably still can't beat my sister in the race right now. Yeah, so, you know, I had some in-house guidance, but identify a trainer, a coach, a teammate, maybe somebody in your church, or a teacher, somebody you can learn from, so they can tell you some of the stuff I tell you, right? Make sure you can run a mile in 7 minutes. Don't eat sweets. Don't eat cakes. Don't eat fried foods if you can help it. Don't drink sodas if you can help it. All right? Train, get you a consistent regimen. Try to train in the morning sometimes. Wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning when everybody else is asleep. All right? The weight's not heavy at 5 or 6, but whenever you commit to that, whenever you put in your mind, this is how bad I want to get this done, it'll show. It'll show, I guarantee it. So you want to train and you want to build that up. Next, find you a home. You know, I really have, for lack of a better word, a problem with kids going to 3 or 4 different high schools because it demonstrates inconsistency. All right? My coach's goal was to develop young men. All right? So imagine if I was a young man and every time something go wrong, you know, coach cussed me out, the coach put me on the bench. They're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to just leave. All right, I feel like it kind of starts a bad habit, but I have seen it work. I actually transferred myself of high school and college, but, you know, in a lot of situations, mine is different, and I'll explain it to you. Well, I wouldn't say different, but everybody goes through stuff. There's nothing wrong with transfer. I don't knock it, but try to find you a nice foundation to where you can build and grow. Like, do that. Travel, like go around town. Once I got my car, my junior year, I would keep 2 pair of cleats in my trunk. So I would link up with my boys from Paxton. You know, I had a few homies at Reigns. One of my boys was playing at Nice at the time. They were very good. And I would really be intentional about going and traveling and training with these guys. So my friend at Nice, his name was Mario Butler, highly recruited cornerback going to Georgia Tech. So I would kind of mimic some of the stuff I learned from him. Now the difference between me and him is he was tall. I wasn't very tall. And that'll buy you some good cool points in recruiting. But I would be able to work out with him and some of his teammates. So I'm like, okay, if you preparing for the ACC and I'm not too far behind you, then maybe I'm not that crazy for thinking I can play Division I. All right, so you'll go find some guys. During the summer, go to those camps. But don't go to those camps like, oh, I'm about to go earn an offer. Because 10 times out of 10, you probably won't. If they haven't offered you by the time you got to camp, you know, unless you just make like a barrage of miraculous plays and everybody notices, you know, I've never seen a situation where people show up to camp and leave with 30 offers. But what you do is you go and you identify the guys they're already recruiting. So the camp that's in my mind right now is Friday Night Lights. We played at University of Florida. And this is before Major Wright was coming in, Chris Rainey was coming in, all those guys were there. So I'm able to see, all right, these are the guys that's being recruited by the team that just won the national championship. So these are arguably the best guys in the country they have to offer. So I find Chris Rainey, I was like, all right, you know, I'm gonna cover him one time on the rep. He burnt me so bad, bro. Like, he was so fast. And I was like, okay, if I want to get to this level, I have to get faster, okay? And then the quarterbacks all had strong arms. So go to those camps, always focused on getting better and developing. Like, the purpose that you put behind what you're doing makes a difference. So when you going in there like, yeah, I'm gonna get an offer, we could almost smell it on you. Like, you know, like, oh yeah, you're not really here to get better. You're not here to crab, you're not here to shake these coaches' hands. Also, you want to meet the coach because the special teams coach at Florida might be the defensive coordinator at Western Kentucky next year. And the guys he was recruiting from Florida not even thinking about going to Western Kentucky, but he remembers you. He remembers you shake his hand. He remembers you being a good person. He remembers you making a couple plays. You know, you got his phone number. You got social media now. You follow him on Twitter. That stuff carries, like, building relationships. Football is business. And in every business, real estate, you know, any kind of sales, the relationships you build with people, that's where you get some business created. So I would tell them to do that. Students first, student athlete first. take your test scores, get your test scores as early as possible. All right. If you don't have an ACT or SAT score, you're pretty much wasting your time playing. They can't do nothing with you if you don't qualify. So once you put that whole formula together, you see what came about. All right, see what options I have. Well, can I sign this scholarship? If I don't have a scholarship, can I get Bright Futures? Are my grades good enough? Use fastweb.com, best kept secret. They offer all kinds of scholarships, left-handed scholarships. You can write a paper on what you would do to change humanity scholarships. Like, it's a lot of money available for education if you don't necessarily earn it in the athletic realm. So I would tell them to do that. And then at that point, man, you just got to bet on yourself, like double down. Once you made your mind up, like this what it is, take your chance. Whatever your chance is, I don't care if it's in Washington State, New York, you know, it's almost 5,000 universities in the United States. And they're actually playing football in Europe and stuff now too. So there's opportunity everywhere. And I remember someone telling me, if you can start for a high school in Florida, there's a school for you. All right, if you can be on the starting roster in Florida where we play the best football at, it may not be Big 12, all right? It may not be national championship contender, but trust and believe, scouts are coming to check out Mount Union University. Scouts are coming to check out North Dakota State University. Scouts are going to Jacksonville State University, UT Martin, all right? You know, they really do come check you out. It's not as prevalent. You know, I don't want to say you have the same opportunity as these guys, because you don't. You know, they got a little advantage on you, all right? You know, if you start in the SEC for 10, 11 games, you're probably going to the NFL. Yeah, you know, and that just is what it is. So, you know, once they get there, and I hope somebody sees this and like reach out to me like, yeah, you know, explain this to me. But it's all about just being consistent with your effort.
So you say you transferred in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you transferred from FAU
To Jacksonville State, yeah.
What made you transfer, make that move?
So I'll have to explain the PWO deal primarily for that to make sense. So with the PWO deal, preferred walk-on deal, I take a trip down to Boca Raton in like February or March, and they tell us straight up, we've already signed our recruits coming in for your training, for your class, but the deal we'll give you is if you can get accepted to the university and you become a 1 or a 2, we'll put you on full scholarship. You can earn your scholarship just like that. So I was like, all right, you know, I like those odds. Coming in my freshman year, I was like 4th or 5th string, everybody will be. And I redshirted my whole year. So I went into the deal knowing I would have to pay for school my whole first year. And I was prepared to do that. It wasn't really a problem. Just a little budgeting. And I told you about my pops. You know, he was able to help me out a little bit. And I value that. Everybody don't really have a $2,000-3,000 laying around that they can just send off. So they did that. Going into my redshirt freshman year, I was 4th or 5th on the depth chart once again, but I started on field goal block. I was the number 1 on field. I was on the hands team, 2 trash special teams. Those not even real good jobs. So I had the block the extra point against North Texas. I cribbed that. After I cribbed that, I was like swarmed by reporters. Like, who was number 6? Where do you come from? You know, tell us about yourself. So that was really like my who was number 6 moment. Like, who was this kid with number 6 moment? So people know who I am. As DT, they call me Little DT from Duval. You know, he this and that, he good at coverage. And my coach at the time, Coach Hoser, he never wanted me to get on the field until he felt like I was aggressive enough. Like, we didn't do cover corners. You know, you got guys, oh, he's skilled in coverage. We ain't play that at FAU. If you ain't want to tackle, if you ain't want to hit, there was no place for you in this locker room. You know, we'll release you, you can go wherever you want to go, but until you're ready to hit, you do that. So my redshirt freshman year, I'm a 2. So I meet the requirements. We had freshman All-American, and we had a real seasoned veteran at cornerback, and we had another cornerback who was actually better than me, but he was injured. He was ineligible. And there was another one named Tavoris, and it was me. So I was 4 on the depth chart, so I was a 2. Coming into my redshirt sophomore year, I was the starting nickelback. I was on all the special teams. So in my mind, I met y'all requirements. All right, when I came to y'all 3 years ago, y'all said if you're a 1 or a 2, we'll put you on full scholarship. So at the end of that season, my last year, we missed a bowl game by 1 game. We lost to, I want to say it was Arkansas State, because we still beat FIU, but it didn't give us bowl game contention. That made us 5-7. They fired the defensive coordinator. They fired the weight coach. And our head coach, Coach Snellenberger, rest in peace, that's my boy, he was pretty much about to retire at the time. So I kind of seen the writing on the wall. The program was about to make a transition. New coaches bring in new guys. So if they brought in a new defensive back coach. So I started to prepare myself for my time might be up here at FAU. And I remember the day when I just decided to walk away from it. It wasn't real like personal or nothing. I just seen like they have no desire to honor their word. And then with this coach gone, they really won't have to. So while I got 2 years left, so you got the transfer portal nowadays. All right, if we had the transfer portal, I would have been in better shape, because what the portal allows you to do is enter your name in to get re-recruited, and you can go anywhere. At the time, you either had to graduate first to go to a Division I university, or you had to transfer down divisions. You could go FCS or Division II or Division III or NAIA. So I got my release. I went to Coach Snellenberger and was like, are y'all gonna put me on scholarship? And he was explaining to me, in this process right now, we're building the stadium. We got a lot of transition going on. I don't really see that happening for you, and it's out of my hands. So I told him, thank you for the opportunity. If you don't mind, I'll still work out here sometimes so I can stay in shape. And he didn't mind that. So he gave me my release. I don't know how the release works with the transfer portal now, but with my release, when I found out FAU was done, my mind was set. I was going to FAMU, period. Like, I know I can get into the school. I know I can compete there. I know I can afford to pay for it, even if they decide not to put me on scholarship. And I can play baseball there, because a lot of the black colleges, they'll let you double up. So even if I got to get some partial money from football and baseball, I'd be good. When he released me, he said, you can't go anywhere in the state of Florida or anywhere in the Sun Belt Conference. So, now I'm like, yeah, they can do that. That's a question that had to come up, but that was the way he can do it. He gave my release. So I took the release, I read it. I cried inside. I ain't want my pride to just give up like that, because I felt like my plan is forward. Like, this what I had in mind. Going into my walk-on deal, the reason why I walked on at a Division I school instead of going straight to FAMU or Bethune-Cookman, because I was prepared that if something goes wrong, I can still transfer down and not have to sit out a year. And that came to work out. So, at the time, it wasn't nothing bad. I didn't do anything to get dismissed from the program. I wasn't on the bench. I was actually projected to be the starting cornerback. Give or take, the guys I was competing with, both of them was a year older than me. One of them, he had better ball skills than me, and one of them was a little more physical than I was. But it was just going to be graded on what the coach felt like was best, out of the three players. Like, all of us was really dogs like that. All of us was about the same size, everything. And we'd have had to compete. It'd have been a dog fight. I left FAU. They won 2 games in 2 years after I left. So that was just a testament as to what was going on with the program. So, the shining light was they got the stadium built. We built the stadium. Alfred pretty much broke everybody's record, still got drafted, and just made a name for FAU on the national level. So that was cool. Then I came home. So when I came home, once I decided I was going to transfer, a lot of players make this mistake. They stopped taking care of their grades. It's like, I already know I'm leaving here, so, I don't care about work. I'm going to skip class. Whenever you transfer, you lose credits. So whenever I left FAU, I had 88 credits. I was 22 credits away from graduation. So I either could have set out football and graduated and went to Division I school, or I could have left right then and there and transferred down. When I showed up to Jacksonville State, I was at Trinity High School working out. And, this is another time a coach contacted me. The coach came to Trinity looking for an experienced cornerback. He didn't want to recruit a high school player, and he had a good relationship with some of the guys, the Pro Impact guys. Shout out to the Pro Impact guys. I did some good training with those guys, and I appreciate that, because I didn't even go to their school. These guys coached at Trinity. I never went to Trinity, and they still saw it enough in me to help me out. So the coach's name was Ronnie Letson. He showed up. He was like, yeah, I'm looking for an experienced DB. He was like, I got one right there. So he watched me go through a couple of drills, and the coach asked me, he was like, can you give me some film? Can you put some film up for me? And I was like, yeah, I can give you some film. All right, now let me tell y'all the trick about this NCAA and your name and image and likeness and how you don't own it. So before I left FAU, so this moment I'm telling you about happened the weekend before Memorial Day. I'll take you back to March of 2010 when I told Snelly I was leaving. I went to my film guy. The film and media crew was always my best friend. Always. Like, you want to be tight with the film crew so you can hit them up. We call them Cooch. I say, Cooch, send me a 3rd and 10 breakdown on Texas. Hey, Cooch, can you make me a small highlight tape? Can you do that? I want to send something to my mom. Hey, Cooch, how about you put this Lil Wayne song on the highlight tape? That was my boy. So I thought. So once I decided I was leaving, I went to Coach. I was like, hey, Coach, can you give me some of my game film? And he was like, no. And I was like, why not? He was like, you don't own it. It's not yours. Like, I can't give you this film unless Coach Snellenberger approves of it or something along those lines. So at the time, I was scared to go talk to Snelly because he already done, for one of my plans. He already said I can't go nowhere in Florida. So I'm walking out and I see a stack of DVDs and I just grabbed a stack of DVDs. I don't know what it is. Just grab a stack of DVDs. Brought it home with me. So when I get home, Lesson asked me, like, can you get some film? And I'm like, yeah, I think I got some film. I got some. So I go through this stack of film thinking I'll find like some practice cut-ups and nothing. I found 2 DVDs, Nebraska, Louisiana Monroe, North Texas, what other team was on that? South Carolina and something else. So I gave the film to Gerard Ross. Gerard Ross made a highlight tape. I only had like 8 plays on those games. So he replayed those 8 plays like 2 or 3 times to loop it to give me 2 minutes worth of film. We posted on YouTube, and what they like to see was how I come up and tackle. So when y'all see this highlight tape, you'll see it's all tackles and maybe 1 pass breakup. I got 1 interception too. I sent that too. So they want to see a defensive back who was experienced in the game. They didn't want to bring anybody in to develop them. They needed somebody to get ready to play right now. We was opening the season against Ole Miss. We beat Ole Miss too. We was getting ready to open the season against Ole Miss. And the game plan was to have 4 DBs to play man coverage across the board, and we're going to blitz them. Like, we're not going to let this SEC quarterback sit back there and pick us apart. They had Jeremiah Masoli at the time. So after I got that done, I was on South Beach in Miami, actually, and Coach Letson called me and said, hey, we like your film. You qualify. School starts Tuesday. I said, okay, I'll see you Monday. So on South Beach, I packed up my charger. Went home, came home, packed up my stuff, drove to Jacksonville State. It was a warm welcome because what I learned about Jacksonville State at the time is they kind of made a lane for a lot of guys like me who went Division I and something happened. Like, you had this plan to play at Ole Miss. We had a linebacker from Ole Miss, a quarterback from Alabama, a running back from Georgia, some junior college transfers, and we had a host of players who I have no idea why they were FCS recruits for whatever reason. They from smaller towns in Georgia, Alabama. We had quite a few people. Both of the cornerbacks I played with went to the league, TJ Heath and AJ Davis. And it was like a SEC roster playing the FCS. So it was a second chance for a lot of people. And Coach Crow made sure we valued that second chance, like understand wherever you messed up at, whether you fell off academically. Some people may get into some trouble, a failed drug test or fall off somewhere academically. A lot of FCS schools understand what happens, and a lot of them, they didn't get in no trouble. They was just 4th or 5th on the depth chart because the SEC schools are so loaded with talent that you may or may not really get a chance to play. So in that aspect of transferring, it's necessary. So it may, you might look at some guys and be like, oh, you transferred because you couldn't get in because you was weak. I'm like, that clock is ticking. You got 4 years. So if you can't get in, there's no sense to let your pride get in the way. Go somewhere where you get an opportunity to do something. And I got to Jacksonville State. When I got there, so the guys who play for Jacksonville State, they never want to let the transfers feel like you just going to get shit given to you because you came from playing for Nick Saban. All right, we're going to go at you extra hard. You're going to run extra sprints. So whenever I'm on the field in 7-on-7, the ball coming at me. Like, we finna make you show us that you really can play. We don't care nothing about, because, it's a habit. Like, people come in and then they all have their rings, they bowl game rings or where they came from. And you got these FCS guys and they like, I don't really appreciate that. I feel like these teams kind of sprayed on me. Like, they ain't want me, they overlooked me. And you think you just gonna walk in here and just take my spot because of what you did there. I'm gonna show you otherwise. So them boys was dogs like that. Them boys, like my very first day, we had to run 5100s. The 2 DBs, both of them that went to the league, I didn't beat either one of them on any rep, and they was not finna let me. So we challenging each other. I'm trying to out sprint them. And they're like, nah, we're gonna let you know you're gonna grind over here. Like, this how we get our stuff out the mud over here, because we don't have multi-million-dollar weight rooms. We're not getting waves of recruits coming in. Like, it ain't like that. Like, we really grind and get out. So, that's how that came about. And Jacksonville State put me on for a scholarship. So I got what I came for. So the reason I left FAU in a condensed form is they didn't honor their word to put me on scholarship. All right. So once I had the film, once I played against Texas, all those guys, I was like, I know I'm good enough to play now. So, but before I didn't really know. Like I had doubts, is 150 pounds gonna be good enough? Can I run a 4.4 and a 40? If you throw a 6'5" guy fade, like will I be able to defend it? I had proven that to myself at that point. So I knew I could earn me some money. So they saved me about 60 grand in the long run by paying for my last few years of college.
Beautiful. So, how was the coach able to just say, hey, you can't sign the way in Florida? Was that like policy leaving FAU, or was that something he specifically said, hey, this guy can't sign in Florida?
I don't really know the answer to how he has the power to do that, but he does. And, I remember it happening quite a bit, just hearing it through the grapevine. But, head coaches really they can dictate, that kind of stuff. I remember hearing about Nick Saban doing it. It was a defensive back that Kirby Smart was going to take to Georgia with him, and he didn't want him to go. But, yeah, he really can just limit as to where you want to go. I can understand why he wouldn't want me to go nowhere in the conference, just because I memorized their playbook inside and out. So if I go to Middle Tennessee, I'm going to be standing right by the coach. Every time you shoot a signal, every time you point to the ground, I know it's cover 3. Every time you point to the sky, I know it's cover 2. So, of course, you don't want to give anybody that advantage like that. But I never knew, and I later found that I could have appealed that if I wanted to. But I don't like court. I don't like dealing with administrative stuff if I can help it. Like, we're just going to follow the rules. We're going to do everything right. So I never really argued about it. I didn't really question, like, why did he do that to me? Like, why me? Just because I was like, okay, we're not going in Florida. It's 49 other states. Let's find one of them. I'll go to one of them. But, yeah, I don't know exactly how or why he's able to do that, man. It's, they give head coaches quite a bit of power. And it may look like too much power if they abuse it. But, I don't feel like he did anything abnormal with that. It wasn't necessary. And part of me wishes he wouldn't have, because there's a lot of good schools to go to in Florida. But, Schnelly was a man of strategy. Like, he was very wise in what he did. He was a realtor at heart, in my opinion. Like, they brought him there to build the program. He wasn't there to, break records and, do some of the stuff he did at the University of Miami, the University of Louisville. He was a little older at the time, and FAU was a startup program. And what you want to do with a startup program is build a foundation. So to just have a legendary head coach like that to represent the program and all the connections he got in South Florida, he did everything he was supposed to do. So, yeah, I don't think it was like an abuse of power as to why he did that. I still don't know how that was able to happen. I didn't ask. That may be my homework for the day, to see what that's about, like with the releases, and to find out if that's possible in the portal. I don't know if that's possible in the portal nowadays, because that could grow to be a problem if you get 2 or 3 guys, transferring within the conference. And now you got, it's like conflict of interest, right? And in some schools, in my opinion, I don't see why you would want to leave one to go to another. Like, leave Auburn to go to Alabama. Like, you're asking for a lot of trouble. Like, those rivalries are really deep. Florida State, man, for you to go from Florida State to now you switching to Florida. Like, you had 112 other Division I universities and you choose to go to this one. I probably wouldn't recommend it. They're going to meme you. They're going to put all kind of memes on you, especially, they be like, you couldn't play here, you weren't good enough. So I don't know. But, yeah, that's just one question I don't really have a solid answer to, as to how he was able to do that or why he even decided to do it like that. All right. The lineman. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest difference. So the biggest difference within the competition is the linemen on the FBS level are statistically bigger. So we did it was one lineman that they did a write-up on at Texas, and they was talking about how tough he is. He's a tough, gritty lineman, but he's undersized. This dude was 6'5", 310. Like, we didn't have a 6'5", 310 lineman on our roster at all. So, we looking at those guys, and that was like the biggest thing that to stand out to you. And then there's like 20 of them. It's more lineman spots than any roster spot on there. So I can remember going to Texas and Michigan State specifically, and just like looking at these massive buildings of people just moving around. Like, they were huge. But the competition level was strictly that. It was in the trenches. The defensive backs I played with at Jacksonville State, both of them went to the NFL. None of the defensive backs I played with at Florida Atlantic went to the NFL. Yeah, let me see if that's pretty straight. So I can say the defensive backs I played with at Jacksonville State, they were better athletes. They were fast. They were strong. They didn't mind hitting. TJ Heath specifically, you know, he had an All-American streak that had he had it at the FBS level, he would have went first round easily. Like he caught 3 picks one game and cribbed 2 of those. He caught 2 picks one game, cribbed both of those. He ended up having like 7 to 8 picks was in the 4 or 5 game stretch or something like that. But I definitely didn't see any difference whatsoever in the skill players. That's quarterback, running back, receiver. I didn't see any drop off from FBS to FCS. The only difference I saw was the size of the linemen. And that's not even saying, you know, the competition was different. Like they were way better or way worse, but they were definitely bigger football players in the FBS.
I see what you're saying. Like, man,
So I went to BCU, man. I used to
For sure.
for them, man, and we went down and played Miami.
Miami, yeah.
Bruh, when I tell you they
offensive lineman was so big, all of them had to be at least 6'5", 330. And I'm looking at our offensive line and defensive linemen. They might be like 6'3"
Yeah.
something, but it's like
Yeah, it's a huge difference. It's a huge difference, bro.
different.
bro, I'm talking about, and it was
All the
All of them. Ain't no little line.
so
by the time we was up, they was
I think they beat us like 55-6.
Yeah.
And they put in like the 4th string walk-on running back.
back, and he's still going crazy because these dudes
Them big linemen. Everything out the way. That was the only difference I seen, bro. First quarter.
So what was the
craziest story from your playing days.
Craziest story from my playing days. I remember it like it was yesterday. Another testament to how Howard Snellenberger was about this stuff. And you got to add the clip to this here so they can see what I'm talking about. So my first highlight as a college football player, we play at University of North Texas. The score is 20-0. We up 18-0, I think. Yeah, we up 18-0. We up 18-0. So this is around the time the instant replay first come around where you can look at the play and see if you scored. So they had a running back run the play. They get it to the red zone. Running back go try to get the ball in the end zone. He clearly didn't get it in the end zone. You can see he was short. So we looking up at it on the Jumbotron, and you know, we looking, and they're like, man, he ain't score, he ain't get in, he ain't teammate. I'm in the huddle too. They like, nah, he ain't score, man, he ain't get in. So I said verbatim, excuse me, I like, man, fuck that shit, man. Let him kick the field goal. We gonna block it. I'm gonna pick it up and score. Like I said that in the huddle, but I ain't know I was finna do that. Long story short, they lined it up. Coach called block left, block right. It looked like this, coach. That mean the person on the right side goes for the block. The person on the left side is the scooper. That's me. So I'm in the huddle. I say that. My boy Dino look at me like, all right, bet, give it to him there. We don't care. We up 18 points anyway. Austin Jensen come off the edge. He blocked the kick. So when he blocked the kick, it hit the ground one time, bounced up into my hands. And I just remember like trying to run so fast, like just getting outside my form. So I ran track, and a lot of your running is your form. All right, so you want to get your legs up, get you a stride, and start running. But I'm out there doing that Sonic the Hedgehog running, you feel me? So I run, I gained about 50 yards. In the field that we used, it was called Lockhart Stadium. And I told Coach this, he said it was an excuse. But we shared that stadium. Well, the crazy part was, you know, that ain't really like the craziest part. So fast forward, you know, the game's on Saturday. On Sunday, we have film studies. On Sunday, we watching film. After the game, they interviewing us and stuff like that. Snelly gets on this interview and say, yeah, he exposed himself. He's out of shape. Like, we got to get him in shape. You know, the way he was running, he don't look like he was in shape. He got tired. Because you remember I told you I stumbled a little bit. So looking at it, I guess he felt like from his angle, I was running out of shape and I couldn't do 100 yards. I'm like, Coach, you done watched me do 22 110s. You know I'm in shape. So he said that. He said that to the media. I didn't even know that yet, all right? I did my interview with the media, and they was trying to give me credit. I said, man, give credit to the guy who blocked the kick. That's the real work. Picking the ball up and running, anybody can do that. So that's happening. The way the practice schedule went was Sunday we watch film and like do like recovery stretches and stuff. Monday is everybody off, all right? And Tuesday we back in the building. So Tuesday we was back in the building practicing. Wednesday, we didn't have no lights on our field. Wednesday, Snell was like, hey, you, he ain't know nobody's name. He 85 years old. Hey, you, come here. He like, you know you're out of shape. I'm like, Coach, what you mean I'm out of shape? He like, you were running out of gas after you picked up the ball. I was like, nah, Coach, I hit a soft spot of turf. Like, they put beach sand right there, you know, to get the grass back up. I was like, no, we're gonna get you in shape. So I'm like, all right. Like, put your helmet on, go to the sideline. Gassers. And whenever you say gassers, that means you get on the sideline, you got like 55 seconds to go down, back, down, back, down, back. Some people call them 300-yard shuttles. So, now keep in mind, bro, Snelly is one of those coaches where if you roll your eyes at him, that might be your last day on the team. Like, straight up. Like, you do anything disrespectful to Snelly, we don't play that. Like, that's everybody from the assistant coaches to the players to the cafeteria staff to the equipment staff. Like, we really held him in that much regard. So I run the first gasser, make my time. I'm thinking I just make my time, I'm done. He was like, okay, we're gonna go again. I start spazzing. I'm like, what you mean I scored? I'm getting punished for scoring. Feel me? Like, you punishing me, there ain't nothing else I can give you out that play. So I'm yelling, so the strength coach pulled me over, like, DT, calm down, man, calm down. I'm like, nah, man, he tripping, man, I done scored, and he doing this now, there you go. They're like, nah, DT, bro, you know, just learn from it, learn from it, man. Like, he ain't punishing you, bro, like, you know, and what they was telling me is like, Coach notices you now. Like, he know who you are now, but in my mind, I'm like, bro, I gotta run these gases, and I scored. Like, I didn't fumble. I didn't drop the ball or nothing. Like, I set the fire that got the team, you know, doing their thing. But all my vets, when I was telling y'all earlier, get you some vets in your ear that'll tell you something right, all the vets were like, nah, DT, man, we know how you feel, bro, but he's saying something to you. He acknowledging your presence now. Like, he know who you are, and he just wants you to improve. And then shortly after that, he called me, and then he had a meeting. He was like, you know, I like what you're doing. And he described me, he was like, you know, you're the prototypical NFL defensive back. And I was like, all right, you know, I like that. So it was like encouraging words. But, you know, I just found it real crazy that I'm getting punished for it. And then we had the tight end the very next week, got drafted by the Browns. He fell. He got shot out the sky in the same spot. Like, he had caught like a screen and was just running. Like I said, it was because we shared the field. But, yeah, like, that was that. Like, I got punished for my first highlight as a Division I college football player. And and then, you know, the highlight, like I said, it was a creative moment. It wasn't even supposed to, like, I kind of manifested that. Like, number one, the guy didn't even score. Like, I can show you the film right now. The ball never broke the plane. But I said, nah, forget it, give it to him, man, we finna block the kick. So, yeah, I was just like a real, like, manifestation, like, come to Jesus type moment. And, like, looking back at it, I do appreciate him just caring enough to even reprimand me to some degree. I still totally disagree with the idea to punish a player after they scored. But, you know, he won enough championships, so maybe he knew something that I didn't know. So that's how that went.
So, do you think NIL deals hurt or help the college football landscape?
NIL deals, do they hurt or help the college landscape? Well, the college landscape is the players. And I had teammates show up with 3 kids to college, all right? Yeah, I had our wide receiver room probably had a combined 8 kids when they showed up their freshman year. So let's keep that part in mind, all right? A regular college football player's salary is 0. You make nothing. When I played, I made absolutely nothing for that. And the players make the landscape. College football is the players performing. So I don't want to go on record to say anything that's helping them compensate themselves is ruining the landscape. So it's a good and bad thing to everything. So I'm gonna stand on the firm no. No NIL deals is not, you know, messing up the landscape of college, but the love of money is the root of all evil. You know, that's written. So whenever you get the purpose of what you're doing going south, then that could be a problem. You also have the idea to where I'm sitting right here, I don't have no NIL deal, then I sit next to the quarterback who's driving the Maybach. So it's like, dang, is he really worth that much more than me? So it's not the money itself, it's the love of and whatever comes with that. So I'm not as versed on what's going on with the NIL deals. The way in my opinion, if I could do it perfectly, like, you don't have to go get no outside money, all right? The players are generating money from Georgia. So how about Georgia pay me for what I'm doing for this university? So the NIL deal kind of give the schools a cop-out to where we still gonna make our money off of y'all, and y'all can make money now, just not this money, okay? So yeah, I think it's good. I think it be used properly. The part I like the most about it, and this might sound crazy, is for our women, our young ladies, because you know it's college. Like I seen Angel Reese say straight up, I make more than some people in the WNBA. That's why she didn't rush to come out in the clip, because a lot of them on the professional level, they still won't really generate as much income as some of the guys will. So I have a niece that's also about to go to Howard as well. So I see that as an opportunity for them to generate something for themselves. I feel like young ladies always had an advantage in marketing, you know, just because of different stuff they may overcome, you know, different products, you know, hair care products, cosmetology. It just always seemed like a wider range to marketing with young ladies. I remember meeting a young lady in high school, and she worked at a clothing store, and at the clothing store, all they really hired was women, because the people who would come shop at the clothing store was men who had, it was a designer clothing store. So it's not really like a chauvinistic approach. It's just this model just works better for business, having young ladies in here working with us. So, you know, I do have it like that, but no NIL deal won't ruin the landscape of college football at all. I don't really see it being a negative thing whatsoever. It's still new, it's still a fresh idea, but we complained for a long time about athletes not being able to get paid, And then it just really sucks when you'll see some of these stories where these players have these immaculate college careers, generate a whole bunch of money. Tim Tebow, for example, all right? If Tim Tebow had an NIL deal, ain't no telling where to be, but he never made it past a rookie deal in the NFL. And even him, he's somewhat lucky. You get like Maurice Claret, who's All-American or whatever. He never really scratched the surface in the NFL where he could have made him something to walk away with. But the making the money part of it, I'll tell you this personally, just from the football players I know, the making part of it isn't really the problem, it's the keeping it, all right? So you get guys who ain't never had nothing and you give them a $300,000 check, all right? I'm gonna go buy me whatever car I want, go buy me whatever chain I want. Then I'm the rich one and none of my friends really got you. So whenever we go out, if I want to go eat at Longhorn, of course I want you to go with me, everything on me. If I go grab me some Jordans, everything on me. And it feel like love at first. It feel like you showing them love. And I've seen this personally, bro. People spending, breaking bread, doing whatever. Then you look up, account's getting low. Now you looking at these people like, you know, y'all gonna be able to give me anything back. No, they ain't have it to begin with, but you didn't want to be a crab, which I respect. So now you done put yourself in a jam. So one way I could see NIL going south is if they don't give these kids the proper like counseling or guidance to know some of the stuff you can do with your money, like financial planning, financial literacy. I understand that the NFL have some of those programs in place, but even then it still don't work. You know, you still get guys who, and all of them ain't as bad. You know, I can honestly tell you, like 18-year-old me, if you gave me $200,000, I wouldn't have made the soundest investments with all $200,000. You know, I wouldn't have blew all $200,000 either, but you know, I probably would have bought some jewelry. You know, I probably would have bought some, and $200,000, it seemed like a lot, but I would have spent all that while I was in college and still would have came out, you know, looking crazy like I ain't got nothing else. So, you know, you definitely want to get some guidance in place for some of those guys. And I think it'll get better once we go through like a wave of a generation of NIL, so you can get these guys to come back and be like, look, let me tell you what I did so you don't necessarily have to do this. You can learn from this. So, yeah, I see it being positive.
And if you fuck up your NIL deal, you'll be sitting right here in front of the creative moment sign.
telling everybody about where you messed up at. For sure. Learn from these, man.
So, when you graduated from Jacksonville State, what was the plan, man?
All right, my original plan, before I graduated from Jacksonville State, I always said I'm gonna go play football. Whenever football is done, I'm gonna come home. I'm gonna get in fire school. I'm gonna be a firefighter. Firefighters work a day, they off 2 days, and I'm gonna be a barber on my days off. So Monday, I work at the fire station. Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm cutting hair. Thursday, I'm back at the fire station. So I created multiple streams. I never really had like a millionaire vision of myself outside of football. I didn't see how it would come about yet. So I was like, you know, I'll do it the humble way. I go in there, you know, build me up something, build me up some clients, build me up a network. Because I'm real big on networking, bro. Like, I'm one of them people who firmly believe, like, I might walk in Lowe's today and shake somebody's hand who could open up a $30,000 opportunity for me. They may not hand me 30 grand, but they might introduce me to the hand and be like, yeah, I can put you on this job, I can put you on this and that, right there. So I felt like having a regular foundation and having something where I can meet people would have worked out. So that was my plan. You know, I hurt my neck at Jacksonville State, so I knew the NFL was out. They asked me, did I want to play baseball? And I told them, nah. I was like, you know, I was somewhat depressed about what happened with football. So to transition and go to getting another coach yelling at me, and then I hadn't played baseball for a while. And then just to top it off, the second baseman we had was already about to get drafted, so I wasn't never gonna get in. But I knew I was like, I'm come firefight, you know, I'm cut here. Upon coming home, I would see some older people, and they would always tell me, like, you know, we could really use some black men in education. Like, we need black male teachers, we need black male teachers. So I'm like, you know, you talking to somebody who failed 6th and 8th grade. Like, I wasn't no real teacher kind of guy. Like, I had a phone book of referrals in middle school. So I was like, me? Like, you think I can teach? They're like, yeah, you'd be perfect for it.
Oh, right here, man.
I got the range. I had a math teacher, a history teacher, and PE, of course. Well, I had a PE teacher at Darnell Cookman. Yeah. That was it.
I had Mr. Edwards in 7th grade for
I worked with him at Northwestern.
Yeah, I had Mr. Edwards.
Oh, Q-Dog dude, then.
Nah, was he a Q-Dog? Because I didn't know nothing about fraternities.
Okay, he don't rep that hard, but if we talking about the same person.
Yeah, he had a son. He said he had a son at like 13.
He from South Carolina with the Voorhees.
I don't remember where he was from, man.
Dark skinned dude, kind of chubby.
Nah.
Okay.
He was a short dude. He was like 5'6".
Nah, it's somebody different.
Yeah, Mr. Edwards. And then I had in 9th grade I had Mr. J. He was a geometry teacher.
At Paxson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. They were my only 2 black male teachers.
Yep. I ain't get none until I went to range, bro.
Yeah, man. So continue what you were saying, brother.
So yeah, they was just some of the people that were like, yeah, you know, we can really use black male teachers. So you know, at the time I was like, firefighter school. I never really understood why I kind of shied away from it, but my big brother was a firefighter, and it was just something I kind of seen was like, you know what? I don't really think that's for me. Like, I don't really think that's for me, so let me see what education talking about. So I had made my mind up, because I got here in August, right before school year started. So I came home, and I knew I was never gonna be one of them, oh, what happened to you type of stories. Like, you know, you just went up here and didn't do nothing. So I enrolled in graduate school later that year, but I started substitute teaching. That way I can kind of get my feet wet and see if it's something I like. Now this was a real interesting time in my life because I had to grow up fast. I'm 21 years old teaching high school, all right? So I would always get like warnings from other people. They'd be like, hey, you know, you young, man, like protect yourself. You know, be mindful of what you put on social media. You can't just go anywhere, whatever the case may be. And that was always something I was conscious of because at the time I'm fresh out of college, so I may still party or go to the club, have a little drink or something like that. But you will kind of lose the respect of your students if you're seen in certain lights. And I was always able to maintain that respect, so I started subbing. Once I earned my master's degree in business, you know, that's when I had some real tools to work with. I had some irons in the fire. And that's when I just picked up education. But the original plan was to be a firefighter and be a barber. But it just transitioned based on what some people, you know, some people who I trusted to offer me good words of guidance. And they would tell me like, and I still do it to this day, like, look, man, you go to work from 8 to 3, you off at 3, you off weekends, you off holidays, you off summers. So even if you decide not to do this, you still got a lot of time to, you know, put some of your creative juices into work. So with me still being an athlete, I'm still training people. The kids I'm training, they in school from 8 to 3. So I wouldn't be doing much of anything anyway. And I did it like that. And my grandmother, God bless the dead, she left the house for me. All right, so when I got that, that's when the light came on. Like, you know, real estate is really where you're gonna earn some of that generational wealth that you want. I can't rap, so I wasn't gonna drop a platinum mixtape. You know, yeah, you know, the stock market, I'm hands-on in it a little bit, but it's like real estate, it was kind of like elementary for me. So the house she left me, my pops left me some simple instructions. He paid for a lot of the renovations. Some of the stuff I had never done anything but play sports up to that point. I regret that bad too. Like I had a regular job here or there, but a lot of us athletes find ourselves so engulfed in sports that we turned 22 years old, we never worked the cash register, we never did the account balance sheet, we never renovated the home, we never fixed the roof, we never fixed the window, and I just looked like I have $1 million worth of game in football, but have no more opportunities in that. So, I just started learning how to do some residential contracting right then and there. And then luckily I got a job at Northwestern Middle School, which was like half a mile away from where the house is. So Northwestern Middle School, that was another real like turning point in my life, because I was the PE teacher and I was a football coach and a basketball coach and a baseball coach. So pretty much everything involved with sports went through me to some degree. So that was like real leadership role. So being a teacher is like kind of smaller than being an athletic person, like being that hands-on. And then being a sub, most people don't really apply too much pressure to you. Show up on time, be respectful, dress accordingly, don't use, distasteful language, things of that nature. When I got to be full-time teaching, it seemed like full-time teacher pay. And I can remember people telling me like, yeah, teachers don't make no money. I felt rich. Like, I felt like my grandmother left me a house, so we'll do some math a little bit. My grandma left me a house, I'm making $3,200 a month, which ain't like that much. I'm not paying the mortgage, all right? Not paying the car note paid for, okay? I don't have any kids, I'm single. So I'm really getting $3 real $1,000 a month. That's mine. You feel me? So, and it was just like a great career plan that worked out for me. Like I said, I still teach to this day, and I've been sticking to the plan. And just like they told me when I started, you got that free time to do something else. I've probably engaged in the 4 or 5 different markets since 2015. I've done residential contracting, which is my favorite, installing floors and roofs. I did some retail stuff to pick up some skills. I had an awesome time teaching swimming lessons, bro. I had an awesome time teaching swimming lessons, bro. Like, I know how to swim. I made me a flyer on Canva, had some promotion. Matter of fact, we gonna talk. I'd make a great promotional video with swimming lessons. And yeah, I know I just taught the class. You don't have to cut this out, but I taught the class last week. It was $200 for 30 minutes, bro. 5 people, because I learned this from you too. You don't even remember this here. We was talking at the field, and you said how you can set your own value when you work for yourself. All right, you wasn't even talking to me actually. Like I think I was on the field and just overheard you saying something to somebody about you being a full-time photographer, bro. I never forgot about that. So like whenever I offer classes, I can say this is my price. This what, if you don't want it, then go somewhere else. Like this what. But whenever you build your value into your craft and what you do, they won't even mind paying you for it. Like you might tell them it's $25 or whatever, they'll give you $75 because that's how much they value whatever you putting into them. So yep, I stuck by that, man. My journey still ain't over, bro. I'm still learning stuff, still in phenomenal shit. I still train like I might get the call one day. Like I don't even know why I think like that. Just I know I constantly tap back into being that 5'5", 150-pound person that nobody thought much of. So whenever I work out, it just kind of grounds me. Like it puts me back. Like don't forget who that kid was. Like don't feel like you accomplished so much till you forget who he was, because he did some stuff that nobody expected him to do. And I, same person, it can be the same way. It's just in different fields, not so much football, but I might crack into being the next real estate mogul. I might be a principal one day. All that's still gonna come. I'm 33, like I'm not old. A lot of people will get to this age and feel like, yeah, I'm washed, I'm getting old. Like, nah, bro, you just getting warmed up. Football was the beginning. That's a very small part of your life. Very small part of your life, because you're gonna get married, you're gonna have children, you're gonna make some investments, you're gonna meet some people, you're gonna have opportunity to change lives. And football might end at 24 years of age, give or take. Like the average NFL career, 2 years? So by 24, you'll get out. I'm very, very thankful for my transition out of football, because I've seen some people take it hard. I kind of feel like it was a blessing in disguise for me to sustain the injury, so I never had to consciously walk away from the game. It was like, this is what you're risking. Go ahead and make that transition for me. So for a lot of people, they get out, might feel like coach didn't like me, or I didn't really get this fair shot. and they'll try, keep chasing it. But I always encourage people, keep chasing their dreams, never quit, you feel me? Like, until you just decide that's just what it is, like, always pursue what it is you want to do. But with this football.
How did you get injured at Jacksonville State, man? How did it happen?
So we was doing a live kickoff drill. Special teams was my thing. So the way the drill is set up is I line up on kickoff. It's a guy who lines up about 12 yards in front of me. All right, and we kind of imitating the kickoff. So I take off running like I'm going down on kickoff. He got to drop back, like he running backwards, and he set up, turn around and block me, and he got to try to block me from getting to the kickoff. So when we doing the drill, I ain't never publicly spoke about this either. So when we doing the drill, I'm running down, I'm getting up on his toes fast. He's much stronger than me. His name was Coop, we called him Coop. He made the biggest catch in Jacksonville State history for us to beat Ole Miss after this too. So I'm running down, I'm getting up on his toes, and he wasn't really able to turn around to square up and block me. If he could, he would have did good because he was a real strong receiver. And the day before this, I had number 26 at Jacksonville State. I had 6 at FAU. I was like, hey, Coop, man, let's set something up for me. We're going to do some one-on-ones. If I beat you, you got to let me get number 6. That's my jersey. And he was like, bet, bro, you ain't going to lock me up, you feel me? So we do that. So we run down. We do that a few times. And then we practicing live kickoff. I heard a lot of people say you should never practice live kickoff. But when we're doing the drill, I'm running, getting up on his toes. I'm engaging them hat in hands, and I'm shedding them, like putting them on the ground. I was really like dogging them for real, like straight up. Don't tell him I said that. So when we do the live kickoff drill, he's scheduled. He's supposed to block me. So whereas in the drill, when I'm engaging him, I run right by him. Like I'm just running faster than he can, because I can run faster forward than he can backwards. That's everybody. So I ran by him, and once I got by him, I came to hit the wedge. So it's the wedge. That's 2 people right here. The person with the ball is behind them. So whenever I go and get ready to hit the wedge, Coop, and keep in mind, like, it's not personal, but in camp, you don't want to lose. Everybody getting evaluated. So he tried to catch up to me. He ain't try to hurt me. He caught up to me, and he gave me a block. He pushed me square in my back. So I fell forward and hit the wedge, and my head went back this way. All right, so when my head went back this way, I was laying on the field. I couldn't really feel my arms. Like I had tingling in my arms and feet, but when it first happened, I couldn't feel nothing. Like I was laying down. Somebody was laying next to me, and I was like, hey, bro, you got to tell them to come get me, man. I can't feel my arms. And they were like, all right, we got you. So then when they came out, they turned me over. Like I got up, and like my hands was like tingling. So I got up and walked off the field. I ain't had to get on no ambulance or nothing. When I got up, like my hands was tingling. So when I got to Jacksonville State, it was my second chance, bro. I ain't cursed, I ain't drank, I ain't party. I was like, this my second chance. Like they barely heard me talk for real. So I got up, got my helmet. It never occurred to me that would be my last time playing. I'm thinking, I might have just got a little stinger or something. I'm straight. So I'm walking to the sideline, and when we get close to the sideline, I throw my helmet. Boom! I told y'all that fuck nigga couldn't block me up. Better tighten up. I don't spit. So I get to the sideline, and they really meet Lil DT, bro. So they meet Lil DT. I'm like, man, I told y'all, man, y'all tripping, man. Better quit pointing at me out here, man. I'm a dog, boy. Y'all know where I'm from. Y'all know what I'm about. Like I'm on the sideline going crazy. And in Jacksonville State, our strength coach, he was a military dude. And Coach Crow, he real structured. Like, hold up. We don't do that around here. Man, nah, fuck that, man. Y'all boys that got me hurt. So I'm tripping, bro. Like, my hair on fire. Like, I'm over there going off, bro. Like, going off. So they pretty much sidelined me for the time. And the next day I come to practice, and they give me what's called the green net. So the green jersey means you can't practice. So at this time, I'm kind of happy because I'm like, I don't need to practice anyway. I'm a vet. I'm a red shirt junior. Like, I don't need to be practicing kickoff team. I've been doing this for 3-4 years. Like, I'm straight. So I'm thinking in my mind, I'm gonna just have to sit out practice a few days, and I'm gonna come back in. And I had went and got an MRI by Dr. Andrews. If you're familiar with sports, Dr. Andrews, one of the most renowned sports doctors in football, in sports, really. Like, inside his office, it's all kind of posters it's a poster of every good athlete I ever seen. Peyton Manning, Bo Jackson, Wayne Gretzky, Ken Griffey, all of them now with the doctor. Brett Favre especially, he had a lot of injuries. So, they do my MRI, and after I do my MRI, we go to Birmingham for that. Birmingham, like an hour from Jacksonville. So I do my MRI, I go back to Jacksonville, and on the whole way back, I'm like, yes, bro, I can finally play again. I'm glad it's over, we straight. So we get there the next day, we getting ready for practice. So I go in and start putting my stuff on like regular old business, getting ready. You know, I had done set out for like 2 weeks at the time. And they're like, Darian, come out, let us real quick. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I go in the office. When I go in the office, they close the door behind me. That's when I knew. That's when I knew it was like, all right, man, y'all go ahead and lay it on me. And they were like, bro, you have what's called a spinal stenosis. I was like, stenosis, what you mean? So like, so your spinal cord, let me see that pen. So a normal spinal cord, you got a spinal canal, all right, and you got your spine, and you're supposed to have some space around it, what spinal fluid is. My spine look like this. So I don't have as much spinal fluid as a normal spine does. So with the stenosis, the side effects of it is sometimes I get numbness in my extremities, like in my hands and my feet. But mine wasn't that bad because it took a big collision to do it. I did more research on it and I found out, you know, Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, they got an older brother. He was actually the better athlete of the three, but he had a stenosis. And nobody actually touched him. He just had times where he would get, you know, numbness in his hand. I don't have any complications with it now, but just listening to him talk, and they still kind of offered me an option. It was like, you know, if you want to try to play, you know, we'll give you time to rehab and stuff like that. But whenever they start using these words I never heard, and I just remember like spinal sticking out to me. I was like, you know, this ain't my hand or, you know, my ankle or nothing like that. Like this my actual spine. So they made a decision to sideline me, and they told me like, we're gonna honor our word. We're gonna pay for your schooling, like whether you play or not. You're like, we heard you was quite the baseball player. Like if you want to go play baseball, you can do that. But you know, you did us some justice. You did us good, and you know, a lot of my teammates respect me, and I respect those guys as well. Like those Jacksonville State guys taught me a lot. So this day I'm telling you about is the week that we played Ole Miss. So if you find any film in that Ole Miss game, we was down like 14 or something, and Coop, the same guy that was blocking me when he hurt me, he turns around and make the biggest catch in Jacksonville State history. He makes a catch in the back of the end zone. Now keep in mind, Coop is probably like the third or fourth option at receiver at the time. Our number one receiver was a guy named LeRae. He was from Alabama. Then Allen Bonner was a freshman. He was cold, bro. He ended up playing for the Texans. And then it was, what's that other dude named? Cam. Cam was from Tupelo, Mississippi. But for whatever reason, Coop, it was a beautiful play. Coop got behind the defense, 2 feet in the back of the end zone, so that took us into overtime, and we ended up beating them in like double overtime or something like that. So Cooper, Jacksonville State, like legend for real, bro. And you know, we remained cool after this. We talk after this. I'm gonna tag him when we put it on there. See how, because we ain't never talk about it, bro. Like after we got hurt, it was just like after I got hurt, ain't nobody ever bring it up. But you know, we ain't nobody want to start no smoke. But Coop put his name in the history book. So at that time, it's like, Coop can't do no wrong anyway. But Coop was a dog, bro. Like, Coop worked real hard. He had like 2 or 3 state championships in high school, man. He's still grinding. He probably lifting weights as we talk, bro. He gonna drop a workout video on there. That's my boy right there. But yeah, so that was what it was, man. You know, it just hurt my neck, and that's kind of how I found flag football, which is what I do now. So I'm like, you know, they actually make football. I don't have to hit. I should have found this years ago. So yeah, that was the injury. That's the only injury I ever sustained, bro. I ain't never had no pulled hamstring, no nothing, no concussion, nothing. Like none of that. But that was it.
So would you label that as the hardest thing you had to overcome in your football career?
No, the hardest thing I had to overcome in my football career is really tuning out what people thought about me. So the hardest thing I had to overcome came years before this actually happened, because you know that was like the end of it for me, you know. So, and then you know that was kind of easy. It was like the choice was made for me. It wasn't like I had to walk with. So I didn't have any trouble dealing with that. I never really dealt with the depression of not having the game, because like I said, it just ended like that. But whenever like the part that really sucked to me is when I would be out places and they'd be like, you know, you play football for First Coast? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, how many offers you got? I'm like, none. Yeah, nigga, you sorry, but how you go first when you got off? You feel me? So it's like, dang, like, so you gotta go everywhere and just tune out what these people think about you, you know, because now they got validation. Like, they probably already gonna be like, boy, you sorry, boy, you ain't making no plays. Like, nah, man, I ain't sorry, man, I can ball. Well, how many offers you got then? And at the time, you know, First Coast was known for, you know, getting, you know, you'll get you a good opportunity. I ain't got no offers. This end of my senior season. So I can remember, like, that was a real tough time for me. Like after the season ended and we moving up towards signing day and I still have no offers. It's still looking like you're not gonna be a college football player, son. So that was the hardest thing to overcome, to just really throw that idea out like, bro, you don't got no offers, it's cool, but focus on yours, bro. I heard Bryce say, keep the main thing the main thing. You said you want to go play college football, keep doing everything in your power to make sure you do that. So I continued to not smoke, not drink, not party. You know, that same diet I told you about, I ain't eating fried food, sweets or sodas. I'm running a few miles every week. I'm doing 100 push-ups every night. I'm eating peanut butter and banana sandwiches, trying to gain weight. And I just kind of just got into my own little world, and that was the hardest part for me right there, bro. Especially, you know, this guy is younger than me, the 08 Super 11. I think it's a record in Jacksonville still to this day. They had 4 Super 11 athletes at First Coast. So all these boys younger than me, you feel me? I had been training with them, but I always had them in my pocket knowing, like, if I can train with Avis Comack, if I can train with Jermaine Thomas, Gary Tinsley, Shaq, Nigel Carr, I'm good enough to go where they going. You feel me? It might not look like it on the surface, but I practice with these boys every day. Every day I'm with them every day, you know. And Avis was real fast, he real track dude, so he would always come link up with me and run some miles with me or whatever. And he's still doing some of this to this day. I got to introduce you to my boy. So yeah, but really, like, up until I just found that confidence in myself to tune out the negativity, man. It's just like a rapper who can't rap, man. You drop your mixtape, boy, your mixtape trash, but like I felt like that about my football. So that was the hardest part to overcome for me, being 16, 17 years old and not seeing the results I thought I should have seen and just ignoring that. Because people will quit, man. You run a business, bro. I mean, yours probably started out not really getting booked up, might not make as much money. The part I hate the most about startup businesses, and that's why I did what I did when I got here, is people employ your service but not want to pay you for it. You know, cause they feel like, you know, dang, like I fixed the lady AC for the other day. She ain't paid me nothing for it, but you know, I sold the seed for it because it's an actual AC. I don't want to sweating it out. But the job I did for it, like $200, $300 job. So yeah, but yeah, that's just how I felt. So you just got to get past that. So now I look at my career, when I look back, you may not see the days when nobody thought I was going to be a college football player. So, you know, I see the same thing with you. When you building your thing right there, I can remember, like, I remember Cuz used to come out there to the flag field just shooting us for free, just, you know what I'm saying, coming out there building the stuff or whatever. I would remember that. Like, I remember that vividly, bro. And then, you know, with flag, we grown men. Don't nobody really care to watch us anyway. So, you know, but just for you to take that and just build off of that, man, like, I feel like all that kind of ties into what I did and what I'm still continuing to do, because it ain't over. It ain't over. Like, we really just getting warmed up. Like, it's going to be way bigger than we ever could conjure up in our minds, bro, 'cause that's how God works. Like, you know, when you honor whatever he got for you, like, you're going to look up one day and it's going to be like, dang, bro, like, this is what it's really about. So, yeah.
So let me ask you a question that's just been going around with the NFL right now. Do you think NFL players should be able to bet on NFL games?
No. No.
Why not?
No. Number one, gambling was started by the French as a fundraiser. All right. So with the money they have, if they really trying to make money, I wouldn't recommend gambling to do it. But gambling is like sport, so it's like fun, like casino, gaming. It's gaming, they call it gaming. So you're not really getting into that for how much money can I make. It's just the thrill of, I'm gonna put up 4,000 and make 70,000. But it's a good business, bro. Actually, it's a younger dude in the FAU. He a real prominent sports gambler. But I'm not necessarily against anybody in doing what they do. It's just extra attention that you don't need. You know, when you look at the NFL players, you know, they almost want you to be this perfect model citizen because they're investing so much in you. So, you know, they drug test you so you're not doing this. They tell you be mindful of what you put on social media, you know, and you know, with the gambling, I don't think they should be allowed to, but I don't think they should be punished in their livelihood for doing it. So I guess it's a slippery slope. If I I can bet on football till I'm blue in the face, ain't nobody gonna stop me from getting paid from my job for doing it. But to treat them like that, it almost seems like it's unfair. But, you know, I seen one of the interviews with Neesmith, who was actually one of my mentors, he said something along the lines of, we don't know what these guys go through. Like, you know, he was talking about John Morant. He was like, we don't know what these guys go through. We don't know what they're doing. We see them run routes and score touchdowns, but we don't know the depth of what they're doing in their everyday lives and what makes them make the decisions that they make. So gambling is legal. Like, they're not breaking any laws and doing what they do. Now, the NFL has an ethics code where they feel like, you know, this is how we want you to carry themselves, but you know, I wouldn't want to like mandate it. I would rather be somebody like a coach or a veteran player. It's like, yeah, bro, you can gamble, but why, bro? Like, you can smoke cigarettes too, but how is that gonna benefit you? Like, you know, so yeah, I stand on the no. I don't think they should be allowed to. You know, I know I won't say I don't think they should be allowed to. I don't think that's something they should want to engage in themselves. You know, but you know, I probably had some things that I did that most people wouldn't really agree with, and I'm real big on not judging anybody, and I really hold the black athlete in high regards, because like I said, you really don't know what they go through. Like, money maximizes your problems sometimes. You know, like, if you give a problem child $1 million, you know, it ain't no guarantee that's gonna fix him. It could make it worse. So, you know, deal with it.
Why aren't running backs getting paid in the NFL market right now?
There's a collective, meaning together, bargaining agreement. So that means all the owners and coaches got together and said, this is what we are not going to pay running backs, all right? And they really don't have to, man. Like, that's the part I hate, bro. Running backs ain't getting paid because they don't have to be, bro. Like, and then look at the NFL like this. So say, for example, say Saquon Barkley say, I ain't playing no more. You think the Giants gonna cry about that shit? They gonna call FOMO, just like you, buddy. And them folk gonna be happy to be here for half the price every time. Every time, bro. So yeah, it's not fair. And I use this analogy when telling the dude about how the NFL is. Well, you say you got a rookie making a rookie minimum like $300,000, all right? So I made $300,000 this season. You know, I feel like I'm doing my thing. Then I'm sitting next to Leonard Fournette, who got 4 $300,000 cars. And that's just 4 of them. So it's like, dang, I ain't really doing too much of nothing. So with that running back market, bro, they feel like they getting stunted on by the other positions, which they are. It's backup receivers making. Chase Claypool finna make more than most of the running backs in the NFL. And he scored 1 more touchdown than I did last year. He scored 1 more than I did last year. And we know how many touchdowns I scored last year. Yeah, I ain't suited up yet. So it's like, it's a disjustice. So it's not so much of the dollar amount. It ain't even about the money for them. I guarantee it, bro. It's about y'all blatantly doing us dirty in our face. You feel me? Like, yeah, we know we ain't got to pay y'all, like, straight up. So yeah, that's why they doing it, bro. It's because they can, bro. And whenever you're dealing with contracting and agreements, like terms and agreements, that collective bargaining agreement was agreed on both sides. That's where the holdout come from. So it's almost like, you know, y'all agreed to this initially, so you gonna stand on that, bro. And playing with Snelly really got me big on terms and agreements. It's like, this is what we agreed to do, and if you don't agree to do it, then you can dip. You feel me? So whenever I talked to Snelly, he didn't agree. He didn't keep his terms and agreements. So at that choice, I either accept that, like, okay, yeah, you can not keep your word, or I'm gonna do something about it, in which I did. Now keep in mind, what the NFL guys doing is totally different, bro. And it's really a tough spot to be in. I feel like it hurts them more mentally than anything to just watch somebody. Almost like when you go back into the days of discrimination, like racism and stuff, where like you can really tell me I cannot drink this water fountain, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it besides hurt myself or put myself in a worse situation. So yeah, I don't really agree with it, man. You know, I feel like they should pay them boys, especially when you look at the fact that they can afford to do it. Like, they're not gonna miss nothing. You can take a few backup receivers, you know, take a little piece from here, there, get them straight, man. But I ain't really worried about them NFL running backs. When I think about players getting slighted, you know, it's like bigger in the grand scheme of things, like with sports, bro. Especially when I told you earlier about them girls, bro. The WNBA still ain't turned over a profit. Yeah, in its exception. But, and I don't really like to put my feet in other people's shoes, because like you said, you don't know how they feeling. But with the running backs, everybody can see, like, y'all trying them boys, man. And they don't deserve that, bro. And then, you know, football derived from rugby. There was no forward pass. That's how the game started. So everything we know from football, and Pop Warner, that's an actual person, he helped introduce the forward pass to the game. So now the forward pass now revolutionized the game to the point where you're making these guys feel like you don't need them. And that's just not right.
Yeah, man. I think they should be paid, but the reason I think they should be paid is the reason that they shouldn't be paid. Like, okay, running backs get the toughest yards on the team.
For sure.
Every time you get the ball, you got to run at the nigga that hit the hardest on the team.
Yep,
You know
every play. And all 11 of them in front of you.
Yeah, so if you the bell cow back, you run that nigga that hit the hardest on the team every play, you going to get hurt. So why should we pay one that's going to get most of the carries and mess around and get hurt instead of we can have 3-4 of them, you know what I'm saying, and spread that money out.
And just spread the money out.
You know what I'm saying? So I think they should get paid for that reason, but for that same reason, they shouldn't.
Right, that makes
You know what
sense. That makes sense. Ooh, I ain't never think of it like that either. Yeah, you can't get that one running back thing. That's over too.
Yeah, that's done.
Yeah, back in the day, you had a back, you'd get the ball 40 times. That ain't happening no more.
Yeah, then like you literally every play you are running at the hardest hitter on the team.
And if you ain't getting the ball, you blocking.
Yeah,
You
facts.
blocking the hardest hitter.
Facts.
Who blitzing?
Back.
For sure.
So I mean, it's a tough market for running backs right now. Like I get why they not getting paid. They should get paid, but that same reason is why they shouldn't. You
For
know
real.
What I'm saying? It's a conundrum for them, man. But if I had a son that wanted to play football, I was like, hey man,
Not running back.
you're not playing
Not running back. Yeah.
Looking back on your playing days, if you could do anything differently, what would it be?
Play baseball. True story, bro. True story, bro. True story, bro. I had to stuck with baseball, bro. I'm gonna come up with another one for football too. But I can remember people telling me like, you're gonna miss that baseball. There's a lot of opportunities in baseball. Like, play that baseball. And then I actually made the baseball team at FAU. But the coach was like, you know, I want you to be full time because I don't want you just out here going through the motion. Like, you really need to work at this game. And I was an athlete that really needed to work at my craft. Like, you know how you got just naturally gifted athletes who can just show up and not practice and just ball out? That's not me. Like, that's not even not me as a teacher and what I do today. But I would do that. On the football aspect of it, what would I have done differently? I probably would have went to Jacksonville State out the gate. If I knew I had that opportunity, I went to Jacksonville State right out the gate just because of what was going on at Florida Atlantic with it being a startup program. But that's hard to say too, because I actually played at Florida Atlantic. I had a great time. A lot of people be like, do you wish you would have stayed at FAU? No, they won 2 games in the next 2 years, and they had like a different agenda. And it wasn't like anything underhanded, but the focus wasn't so much on we trying to get guys to the NFL, we trying to win the national championship. We were trying to build a program for what the guys are doing right now, and I was able to do that. But I never really felt like it was something I could have done differently in football. Of course, I might have worked a little harder, you know, but I did work pretty hard. I probably would have traveled some more and, you know, trained with some other guys. I would have invested in myself some more, definitely. Like, found some of those top trainers and agents and rubbed elbows with them, trying to network with them. But I don't have just like no blatantly flat out answer like I should have did this or I should have went that route. Besides, you know, playing baseball. So that's that.
Yeah, man. FAU just had a first round draft pick to the MLB. I just shot
First baseman.
Yeah, I just shot his no, he wasn't first baseman. He was I think was he a first baseman? Like, I don't really follow baseball.
Me neither.
But man, he was drafted in the first round. I shot his draft night. Nolan Shawnuel, they call him Boynton Beach Bomber.
Okay,
Yeah,
you can drop him. I might have to check up on it. I did follow the basketball team heavily this year. The baseball team, because one of the baseball players from there, when I was there, won a World Series with the Cubs. His name was Anthony Rizzo. And he had a brother that played football, played O-line, and he played baseball, a real big left-handed dude. He played for the Yankees now. Yeah, so I felt like I could have been in that. I really just feel like I had a better shot at a longer professional career in baseball than football. That's it. But truth be told, I like football better. It's just more fun. It's more live. It's more like me. I'm real good in baseball, but I like football.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the John Morant situation?
Y'all, I was looking forward to this. So, I studied criminal justice for a time, and I didn't study criminal justice so I could find a job in it. I really wanted to understand my rights as a person and understand the way the legal system worked, all right? The First Amendment right is the freedom of speech. You can express yourself however. So with him making this video, he has a First Amendment right to express himself however he see fit. The Second Amendment right is the right to have guns, so the right to bear arms. So on the surface, he didn't break any laws. He exercised his First and his Second Amendment rights. So I'm hanging out with some of my team. Actually, I wasn't even hanging out with him. This is a discussion we had on Twitter. And he was like, okay, well, you talking about your rights and all this stuff. If you go in your grandma's house smoking, drinking, cussing, and carrying on, and she tell you to get out her house because she don't have it in her house, what you gonna tell her? You gonna say something about your rights? Or you gonna know that if she say don't do this at my house, you don't do it? So I was like, dang, you know, that's right. You know, so like even in your studio, I got a right to do a whole bunch of stuff. But if you don't tolerate that in your studio and you say you gotta go, then that's just what it is. So the NBA has told him one time, don't do this. All right, you got on national TV, you apologized to us, you said we ain't gonna do it again, turn around and did it again. Legally, you in good standing. With me, I like Instagram, I like rap music, and I don't really like guns, but I know they exist, so I don't have a problem with them. So I kind of felt like they gave you a hard time, but when we put this in place, we said, we need you to represent the league in this light, and you agreed to do so. So if at any point you decide not to, there will be consequences attached to it. Now, I don't really like to do the whole, oh, you got to be a role model thing and all that. Like, that's not his responsibility. He don't even know half these kids personally, you know? And then role model, like, bro. Hey, come on, man. I play basketball, bro. And they probably listen to the same rappers I'm listening to. So, yeah, like, my stance on that is, you know, whatever he has going on with him and his place of employment, he need to prioritize that. And if he don't want to follow their rules, then tell them, look, I don't want to live by these rules. You know, I want to go a different route and do it this way. Like, I don't want to be this person y'all want me to be because you got a choice to be that, you know. I had a lot of respect for Colin Kaepernick and what he did. I feel like he was dumb because I like to play football, but he decided, like, I'm just not gonna be a part of this if this how y'all gonna do stuff, you know. And if Ja Morant want to wave his guns that bad, then take your little money, you feel me? Separate, go somewhere else, and just do your thing. But if there's people that you in business with, you know, want this from you, then you gotta honor that. You know, you gotta, whether you like it or not. Like even with us, like going to schools and stuff like that, can't sag your pants. I remember my first high school, we weren't allowed to wear white t-shirts. All right, and everybody like, dang, why I can't wear my white tee, whatever? Like, I wanna wear my white tee. No, if you wanna wear a white tee, then go somewhere where we're allowed to wear white tees, because this not that place. So yeah, that's my thought on that, man. I really hope he overcome that, because to me, it's just something too petty to throw away. You feel me? Throw like Instagram videos, and then he ain't make the video, like his homeboy going live, all that. So, and I can remember thinking about when I was getting recruited for, I came up in the MySpace era, and there was like a recruit that signed to Oklahoma and took a picture with like a revolver on his lap. So they took his scholarship from him because they were like, you're not representing the organization. So I can remember my coaches telling me, be careful what you put on social media. And I can remember being in college, all the partying and all that stuff I did going on, you can't find one picture with a cup in my hand, no kind of little nothing. Like, I did some stuff that you would do in college, but we're not gonna record no evidence to this. I'm gonna get with my boys, I'm gonna get with this guy, we're gonna go to your apartment, we're not gonna be driving, we ain't gonna be doing that, like we're gonna be discreet about it. So, you know, I really hope he can just find some way to get out of that, man, because it's just unnecessary. I feel like he's just drawing a little unnecessary attention to himself, and if he can help it, you know, tone that down. Like, you Ja Morant, bro. Like, even the first situation, you in the strip club with it. Come on, bro. There's cameras everywhere, man. You take it on home, do whatever. I don't know how you got a gun in the club or whatever, but, you know, just think about what you're sacrificing, man. Like, think about what you're giving up just for that.
Right now, college football players are holding out on electronic arts. for the name of likeness to be in the game. What are your thoughts on the situation?
I was one of the only people stupid enough to read the whole contract with the NCAA when I got it, and you really don't own that. Like, if any pictures of me, any likeness of me, whenever you sign those NCAA documents, they tell you this is a licensed product from the NCAA and things of that nature. So they fought to get paid, but you know, they like, that's really property of the school and of the NCAA to use for whatever they see fit. O.J. Simpson actually went to jail. He stole a picture of him. It was a picture of him, but that's his name and image and likeness, but somebody else purchased that photo. It belonged to them. So whenever we look at that name, image, and likeness, always read into the details of what that means and where it came from. So the originality of the situation is whenever you work for the NCAA, then they kind of own this stuff and they can use it as they please. But it's a video game, bro. I mean, like, you know, it's definitely contract. It's definitely big money. EA Sports gonna make way more than $500. So yeah, I was one part I didn't really put much thought into it because I was just so excited to play the game again. Like, you know, I was on the game. We didn't care. Like, it's just different times, man. But I guess once you seen that money, and they gave us some money on the lawsuit for it, like on the back end, but like none of us ever cared. Like, I remember when I first got on there, I went and customized my play. I was like, man, I don't look this stank. Let me put some spat on me or something, man. Come on now. So, yeah, I wouldn't really. If I'm a coach, put this way, if I'm a coach, I'm telling my players, bro, we're not finna let that get in the way of what we're trying to do for this season. It almost seemed like a distraction a little bit. You know, like, everybody want their money, everybody want to fight for whatever it is, but for me to be getting ready to go into a season and worrying about a video game, it seems like I'm not really focused on what I came here to do. So, you know, when I was saying earlier about the love of money, like, if you really that focused on your money, you wouldn't be playing college football anyway. Like, if I wanted to get rich, I made nothing playing college football. Like, I would have made way more going to the Army, truth be told. Like, even right now to this day, I'd have made way more in the Army than I would being a college football player, starting my own business like you did. Like, if you're really that focused on this money, this might not be it for you. And I ain't scared to tell college football players, bro, if your primary focus is on a dollar amount, you are distracted, and it's gonna show. You know, I'm sure it's gonna show. So, you know your purpose, know your passion. Like, when I first started playing football, how you asked me how I got started to the game, you didn't hear me say nothing about no money. I played because it was fun. I played because I wanted to. And I remember hearing people say, you know, when you're passionate about something, it don't feel like work. That's how I felt about football. Like, I never cared. We was in the sun doing this and that or whatever. It never bothered me that, you know, I wasn't getting paid for what I was doing because that's not what I got into it for. You know, I felt like if I did what I was supposed to do, then God will honor my response and bless me accordingly. But, you know, everybody don't feel like that. And I don't really want them to. Like, if you feel like somebody owe you some money, stand on what you believe in. You know, this is just my opinion. It's just one person. But when you know how you feel in your heart of hearts, like, it's people who ripping Saquon and boy, like, y'all being spoiled, y'all complaining. All right, if you feel like that, cool. But if I feel like I'm worth more than that, if I know my own worth, then I'm going to stand on that. That's just what it is. So I hope they come to grounds on that game, though, because I really like playing college sports on the game, because we play with all the teams. Like, a lot of people just play with Florida State every time or play with Ohio State. We're going to play Boise State against Idaho. I'm going to play San Jose State. Like, we finna play with everybody and just get a feel for what's going on around there. So, yeah, that was it right there.
I think I heard you mention something about a check or a settlement, man. We pocket watch over here at Creative Moments.
For sure.
How much was that check, man?
Mine was small, bro. Mine was about $500. Like, I showed up on the game for piece of a time. Like, this was the time I was on there, and I really can't even confirm that was me. That's how small mine was, because I was a walk-on. So they had different players with roster spots. But number 24 had changed his number to number 9. So I kind of felt like the number 24 they filled in for me, because I was never on preseason rosters. But yeah, mine was like 500. But it was based on like how much you did. So marquee players probably got a little more than that. But, you know, I was at a small school. I was a small role on a small school. I probably spent it on a few steaks or something like that. It wasn't real big for me like that. But you know, I know some people mention like 12, 1,300, things of that nature. I'll probably get more for the concussion suit, but that concussion suit gonna be going on for some years. So you'll probably have to ask somebody who was really in the mix. I can ask some of my Florida State boys what they made, because they was actually on the game. And then you can update the rosters and get your actual name put on there. All of them was on there. So yeah, that was I didn't even really know or care nothing about that settlement until some of my team was like, boy, you ain't get your money, boy, you better get on your. And I'm like, oh, boy, they was for real? Well, let me call them. Oh, I thought they were joking. Yeah.
So, couple more things, man. If you could say anything to 16, 17, 18-year-old Darian, what would it be?
It's three different things I say to all three of them. To 16-year-old Darian, I would say, you know, 16, what was I? I had just transferred to First Coast. I would tell myself at 16, I can't even remember what 16-year-old, man. All right, so that was getting ready to go into my senior year, like junior year. I would tell myself to, you know, exercise the discipline you use in football and other areas of your life. Because in football, I also focused with stuff like that, but, you know, I was working at the time. I should have applied some of that knowledge to things not applying to the game of football. Like, build you a network. And it ain't all just money. Build you a network. Find something you really want to do if football don't work. Because several people tell us, you know, what's your backup plan? What's your backup plan? But when you that committed, you almost feel like they doubting you. Like, what I need a backup plan for if this gonna work. But I wouldn't consider it a backup plan, but just an alternative means of income. Find something else you can do. So I never had sight of that. So with 17-year-old me, I would tell my, you know, like, you got to be that dog right now, bro. Like, at 17, like, you got to be that dog. You got to put your childish games away. You know, I ain't no video games till 3 o'clock in the morning. Ain't no talking back to these coaches. Like, really, like, elevate yourself to being that person that you need to be if you want to overcome. And then for 18-year-old me, I would tell myself, bro, stop partying so much, bro. You ain't did nothing yet. Like, like you might feel like you came up and you scored your little highlight or you on your way, but be humble. Like 18-year-old me, you did kind of lost sight of humility. You know, it was like I really felt like, yeah, I done did what it takes to get to the league, but I ain't really understand, like.
Is there anything that you wanted to promote or get off your chest before we finish up, my man?
As far as promotion goes, like what I do now, I work in education and I do some residential contracting. It's not like the most promotable business, but in the event that anybody has homes they want to get renovated, floors installed, drywall fixed, we do roofing, I do some electrical, I do AC, so that's what I do. You know, it kind of seemed almost lame a little bit coming from a former Division I player, like, yeah, I'm a residential contractor now, but that's definitely the business I do. And I do that. Anything I want to get off my chest, you know, I kind of made peace with everything. I will just want to get this off my chest just from the inspiration I seen with you. Like, just take a chance on yourself. Like, you never really know how much this thing will grow. I met this gentleman maybe 2 years ago at the flag football field, and, you know, flag was just something I did for fun. And I never really thought hearing him have a conversation with somebody else that I overhear would have this much impact on me to promote myself. And I remember you telling me, you was like, I shoot a promo video for you. And what I was trying to explain to you was like, man, I don't know what kind of video you're gonna shoot of me and some old dudes on the roof, tearing up a roof, you know, or cutting some grass or something. Like, I guess you could throw some rap vocals on there or something, I don't know. But, you know, what I see you was trying to communicate is, you know, you have a skill that could potentially benefit me in what I'm doing. So, yeah, with everybody, man, you know, I took that chance with football. And then a lot of us ballers, too, you know, we got a lot of fire up under our feet where we can take some gambles. But, you know, life ain't all about football. Even if you maximizing that, you hear these players talk about all the time, or they make so much money and feel empty. You know, a lot of that have to do with purpose or passion. I ain't sure. If you one of those people, man, find you somebody you can talk to, man. Even if you got to get on the show or do a podcast or hit me up or whatever. I mean, y'all seen what I overcame. but just, staying solid mentally, because we like to feel invincible. And then with football, you kind of trained to be like this warrior type person to where nothing bothers you, and even if it does bother you, keep going. Some of the stuff could really be a stick in the mud for you. You may need to sit down and, talk to somebody or seek you some professional help. A lot of the guys that you interviewed previously, Neesmith being one of them, they may not even know this, but they served as real mentors for me when I came back home, because they had these training venues, and that was like the fun of football practice for me. And I would still go train with those guys knowing I had no eligibility, I was never gonna play again. And they'll still train me as if they was trying to get me better and stuff like that. Me and Bryce done linked up on some residential contracting jobs before. I met Bryce same time I met you, bro. Total strangers, bro. I remember telling Bryce, I was like, bro, I got friends I've known for years, and I made more money with you in 2 hours than I did with them my whole life. It ain't no knock on nobody. It's just like God just placed people in your life like that sometimes. So, yeah, I wrap up with that, man. I had an awesome time over here with Creative Moments, man. And I really look forward to seeing what you grow this business into being. I'm a long-time supporter. If you had a jersey I can buy, wear it, you can see him, name on the back like that, bro. I'm a huge fan, huge supporter, and I appreciate it.
Creators Moments merch is coming real soon, man. We gonna have it up on the site.
Man, whatever I can do to help you, bro. If I can put my hand in any kind of way, I got you, bro.
Most definitely.
For sure.
Well, that was another Creative Moments interview, man. I'm glad to have Darian Thomas come through, and we appreciate you for coming through, my man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, bro.